Hey guys, I will be presenting about climate change and sovereignty of political reflection. So, what does climate change have to do with sovereignty? Climate change is a global environmental issue, and sovereignty is something that has to do with power and control over its one territory. So, what does that have to do with sovereignty? So, how are these two related? Is that we can cite some examples. Like the United Nations World Meteorological Organization said the hottest 15 to 16 hottest years of the planet have been recorded from the year 2000, and also which has led to detrimental impacts like the rise in sea levels, and which has led to submerge of certain coastal areas and threat to inhabitants of certain islands, and also desertification in the people of in the African region. And all this is because the unequal distribution of anthropogenic climate change. That few countries and individuals hold are more accountable than other countries and individuals of the right of the issue of climate change. Like few countries carbon emissions are more than other countries, in simple words. And this has led to the new term of climate refugees, and they have not been well defined until the year of 2017. And in simple words, climate refugees are people who are forced to migrate from their home region because of climate change. And yes, climate change is a global issue, and sovereignty prevents intervention into other countries to like reduce their carbon emission levels. So sovereignty like produces threat to climate change. Like the increase in the CFC levels in London can have impacts in the sea level rise in Maldives and can pose a threat to the inhabitants of the place. And if we can cite an example, we'd be much more clear in understanding. So one of the best examples of understanding how climate change has to do with sovereignty is the Northwest Passage. Yeah, so the case study we are going to use is the Northwest Passage and key concepts of sovereignty and GTC borders. So what is about the history and conflict behind the Northwest Passage? So it's a narrow strait that connects Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, and that passes through Canada. And Canada holds it as their own because it most of it comes under the exclusive economic zone, and exclusive economic zone is cited under the UNCLOS agreement, so it belongs to them, and they were able to say they were able to produce their claim over it because mostly it was covered with ice and could be only um, pass through using the icebreaker ships. So they didn't pay much attention, but USA wanted to move through it for trade, so they came up with the 1988 Arctic Cooperation Agreement between USA and Canada, in which it states that Canada has like a fragmentary sovereignty over the Northwest Passage, and Canadian icebreakers can pass through that area if USA ships can icebreakers can pass through that area if Canadian government under Canadian government's information and acknowledgement. And yeah, so this was uh, issue before 1988. So how it changed was because of climate change and global warming, the ice started to melt over the region, making the trade more traversable. So that means like not only icebreaker ships, but any kind of ship could travel that place, and which led to a save in 7,000 kilometers of distance, and which has given access to Canadian government to the Arctic resources. Like they could get a fair proportion of Arctic resources, which are worth about $35 billion, and it can flourish the economy of Canada because it flourishes trade, and people could and the goods and the imports and exports from to one's country can be more easily accessible. So how did this pose a problem, sovereignty and border? So why now? Why did other countries have an eye over the Northwest Passage? Is that USA wanted the Northwest Passage because it was easily traversable. As I said earlier, it could save up to 7,000 kilometers of distance. That's like 20 days of travel, and it can like save a lot of fuel. So they wanted it, and Russia wanted it because of the Arctic rich resources, like Arctic at $35 billion worth of resources of natural gas and oil. So they wanted it, and they wanted to get their sovereignty over that place. And China, you spent a significant amount of dollars. That's like $1.5 billion on research and over the Arctic region, and also they want to use that place for trade into the European and the American regions. So, but China's foreign minister spokesman said that they wouldn't poke their nose into the Arctic dispute, but as always, they have been secretly trying to get their piece of land in the Arctic. And how does this pose a threat to Canadian sovereignty is that the ownership of the Northwest Passage is getting questioned on who owns it, who owns the profit, who gets to decide who passes through that place. And this has been a threat to the Canadian government, and also the economic benefits. As I said earlier, the ship, not just icebreakers, but all kinds of ships can pass through that place, which led to an increased activity of trade and globalization. So all the sole profits because of that, uh, all the sole profits because of that trade can be witnessed only by those the Canadian government, but all the countries want to get a share. That's posing sovereignty threat. And also, if they're like by citing an example, the number of ships that travel between 1980s and 2016 have like increased from 16 to 47, which is like so much, and that could also double the risk of accidents like base dumping and also oil spills. So, and if they have to take care of those things, the Canadian government should help them like increase the taxes of their own people and put cash from their hand to clean those places and take care of their region. And also, it can also affect the local community. Like if the place is getting more traversable, then the local community could get affected due to due to depleting ice, and um, also the inhabitants of the place, because like the environment can get disrupted due to decreasing wildlife and also water resources. And this is non-negotiable because like according to the United Nations Convention of the Laws of the Seas at UNCLOS and its Article 8, Canada has its sole right over this land, and it's non-negotiable. So, and though it's non-negotiable, these countries are trying to get their part of it, and this is posing a threat to their sovereignty. Levels of analysis. So, in the international level, as we saw earlier, there's a claim, there's a dispute, there's a political tension on who has the claim over the ownership of the Northwest Passage, and also it poses a significant threat on the environment of that area, like the wildlife and the resources, and also the climate change are a few things that could get pernicious impacts because of. And in the analyzing on the local level, we can see a significant people who got affected was the Inuits, and Canada was able to like press their claim on this Northwest Passage by these Inuits because they have been inhabiting the place for like 10,000 years, sorry, 4,000 years. And for to understand this, we must um, uh, cite the history. So there was this DUW line, which was like founded in 1955 in the Arctic, which was in the Arctic region to prevent attacks from the Soviet Union, and it's like a warning system to prevent attacks from the Soviet Union that was built by USA under the consultancy and the allowance or acceptance of Canada. And it had a good opportunity, like it had a merit, like the jobs were introduced, and the Inuits had like opportunities to get work, but they lacked the skills to do that, and they had to leave their traditional practices so as to do this. So that was a significant problem that they faced. And after the technological advancement and ballistic missiles were introduced, they had to develop their warning system, and they changed it to the North warning system which was founded in 1980. Because of this, the Inuits were like forced to relocate, and this questions their sovereignty because under the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, they cannot be forced to relocate because they have the right on the land, and also according to their Canadian government laws, a, a person cannot be forced to relocate their home. That's their home, and they were like oblivious to under what cause they are being relocated, and they are also facing a lot of environmental problems. Like, for instance, the local body of water that they have been using has increased toxicity due to these programs like DUW and NWS. So claims and counterclaims. So by opening the narrow Northwest Passage, we can like have a flourishing trade and globalization, but this could disrupt the economical benefits of like the Canadians. Like the sole profits should be like entertained by only the Canadian government, but it could be shared by the other countries who want to have a place in the Northwest Passage. And also, it can pose significant threats to the sovereignty of the place because they can have sudden attacks by other countries by allowing this free passage of movement. And also, it can lead to the environmental degradation, like I said earlier, the oil spills and and the waste dumping, etc. And you can say that the DUW and DW line and NWS led to the opening up of new jobs and opportunities. But those jobs resulted in the leaving up of their traditional practices, and it required like the skill and it requires a skill to do that, so they can be really a part of it. And also with the time, a lot of people like civil servants of the Canada started like settling down in the northern part of Canada, just and they have been started occupying places in WS and stuff. So that's not really an opportunity, yeah. Okay, so and yeah, but ice melting, it can increase the transport and it can flourish globalization, etc. But climate change is something we have to look upon. Like what is the use of holding up sovereignty and countries if you cannot take care of if there is not a proper world and under proper conditions to work on. And we can sign global conventions like the UNFCCC and Kyoto Protocol, but all of these need a global concern. Like most of these agreements sit merely as agreements without any proper execution, and we must be more effective in doing that. So conclusion. Canadian government can lose their sovereignty over the Northwest Passage if they are not going to take certain actions to hold up their power. Like they have been still under the support of U.S. on their economy and military. And the second point is that they must include Inuits in their discussion because any decision they're going to take is eventually going to affect Inuit population. And climate change concerns. Whoever owns the Northwest Passage now or in the future must have their consequence on climate change and also protect the local environment because they must not allow people to like degrade the area and increase the sea level rise. Okay, yeah, and also upholding sovereignty. Like, it is very beneficial and required to uphold the sovereignty of each place. But it can. What is the use of having sovereignty, holding up sovereignty of one country if the world is not suitable to live on? And yeah, effective conventions. Like I said earlier, you must draft upon effective conventions that can really be properly executed and also supervise if these are getting properly executed. And that's it. So with this, I would like to end. Thank you.